Okay, so welcome everyone to our town hall. Our topic tonight is college application deadlines. So just to give you a little context, we're going to talk about the programs available, the general options, and also touch on personal strategy when it comes to looking at these deadlines. So we'll be looking into the details and have a good working idea of how to approach planning the fall. Okay, so Fatima is going to introduce the two of us. And
absolutely. Your slide, yes, it just moved. I was wondering why it wasn't moving. Hello, everyone. I'm Fatima. I am an essay specialist here at Prep Matters, which basically means that I work one-on-one with graduating seniors on figuring out the right essay topics and then implementing those essay strategies while keeping the audience in mind, which at the end of the day is the admissions committee. And I'm joined by Maureen Delaney, who is an educational counselor, which means that she works on the overall college process. So that includes crafting the college list, figuring out the application strategy and timing, as in when to send in applications for what schools, which is something we'll talk in great detail today. And she also works both with undergrads and graduate students. And she's a wealth of knowledge on everything college related.
Thank you so much, Fatima. So we're just gonna jump right in here. So I just have some general advice. This is really can cover the whole college process, and that is follow the instructions. The schools have websites full of information, and that admissions tab will give you instructions on how to apply, whether you need to interview, all the details related to, or all the details for prospective students. So really read and follow the instructions. Review the program details that are outlined by each school on your college list. So what do I mean by program details? I mean those deadlines, those early decision details, those early action details. Those will be carefully explained on each website, and some schools may have different requests and requirements. So be sure to know to go to the websites and read, right? And then from there, you can create a plan, be an informed applicant, and craft a plan that works for you and submit by the posted deadline.
So I love Maureen's advice to always go to the website. As a journalist, I'm a big fan of always looking for evidence and data to support any decision that I'm making. And colleges are the same way. They have websites for a reason. They want you to go there. And if ever something on the website is slightly unclear or missing, you can always email the admissions office. You can always contact your regional admissions representative, and you can always work with a college counselor who knows how to figure out things when they're not apparent, right? Or maybe your high school guidance counselor is the right person to go to. So always go to trusted sources of info. Never try to guess something or assume something. Have the evidence to back up your assumptions.
Right. And I just want to give you an example. So when you're considering, look for additional details. So the example is University of Southern California. And we use a number of examples through our presentation tonight, because just to demonstrate some of the specifics. So University of Southern California, at a quick glance, you may see a January deadline. But if you look and read carefully, you'll see that December 1st is the deadline to be considered for merit scholarships. Okay, so again, looking and reading the full context of the application program and option, and not just at a single deadline, okay? And then you will see, I just want to note that sometimes arts, music, dance, theater, business, various programs may have one deadline a specific deadline, and a host of very specific requirements. And also on USC's website, they say, we do not have early decision or early action program. So again, back to that, read the instructions. Do not think of this as, oh, I'm applying to college in general, because the focus should be really in the details. So what we have for application programs, we have early programs, early action, restrictive early action, or single choice early action, early decision 1, early decision 2, and then we have regular decision, rolling decision. There is something called immediate decision, and then immediate school specific instructions. So Fatima's going to start us out here.
Perfect. So we have, as the word early suggests, this is a deadline that is earlier than the general deadline for applications. And most schools offer some sort of early program, right? That could be early action or single choice early action, or some version of early decision, and then potentially a additional early decision cycle that comes after, which is called early decision 2.
Just a note, I think you're going to cover this here, but when we refer to early, you might ask, what does that mean? So it means different things, right? But fall, we're talking about the fall, not winter, January. We're talking about fall submit dates.
Yeah, so think of like starting from October 15th to November 15th, right? Like kind of like in that ballpark. And again, always go to the primary source, always go to the school website and make sure you have those deadlines, make a calendar, right? Of deadlines, have it in a spreadsheet or a Google Doc that you can always refer. Early action basically entails that students can submit applications earlier, as in the fall. It is non-binding, which means that if the school offers you a spot, you can definitely take it into consideration along with your other offers or other options, and then make a decision later. But there's no commitment on your end. It is simply a way to know beforehand or earlier whether you got in or not. So results are usually arriving again from sometime in December to sometime in February. So again, as you can see, it's earlier than the March, April decision date of regular decision deadlines. Right.
And you'll have till May 1st to decide.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. Yep. You don't have to make a decision straight away. You have time. This is just so that you have more information on what happened with your applications.
Right. And again, there isn't a general release date on early action. It's going to be school by school. So those outcomes will depend on the school and their timeline.
Examples of schools that do early action, and there are so many, but this is just a little bit of a taste of what's out there. But many schools do this because it is it is helpful for applicants to know early on their status. So it works for the school as well.
Right. So restrictive or single choice early action is the program that really gives people the most trouble, as in confusion. So it is extremely important to read the requirements, right? But in general, restrictive early action or single choice early action, it requires students to submit the early application to them. Although it's not binding, they may not submit an early decision or early application to other private universities. Students may submit applications to public, international, rolling or non-binding regular decision, but they cannot commit early to other private programs. So not another ED, and what's surprising to some students is not another early action application to other private universities. Now, the idea there, I think Georgetown lays it out well on their website, is that we're giving you the opportunity to submit early. And so we would like you not to commit to another school, you know, as you work through your decisions. And so they're saying, you know, please give us the same courtesy. So the results are received by mid-December, and students have May 1 to respond. Again, it's not binding, so that you can entertain other ideas. So that's why that May 1st deadline is in place. You need to hear back from everyone. Okay, so here some examples here. I just noted, you know, many students are interested in the Ivy League. There's a joint Ivy statement on admissions policy that you can Google, but looking at the Ivies that are restricted early action, you want to be really clear on that. And I did post the Georgetown, and so Georgetown says we give students the option to apply both under early action and other schools' early action programs. Be sure to research the guidelines of all schools to which you're applying. Not all early action programs will allow multiple early action applications. Georgetown, it goes on to tell you it doesn't deny early action students under the early action program. So all of this information is available on the website. And actually on the website, it says we ask you not to apply to other early action programs. Notre Dame, non-binding restrictive early action program. You may apply to early action program at either public or private, may not apply to any college or university, public, private in their binding, so that you can apply early action and not a binding early decision. Okay, so that is the key element. I think that sometimes students miss is that they can't apply ED somewhere and then go ahead and do the restrictive early action. So again, the decisions come in mid-December, and then you can see if there's an opportunity of deferral to regular decision or not. Okay, so let's see. Okay, we have a question, and I think we're gonna hit on that answer as we move through the information here. So the question is it, I'll read it directly. Is there a benefit to applying early action to top schools, or is it better to strengthen your application? So that's a very good question. That would be specific to a student's personal profile. Would strong senior year grades be beneficial to an application? So that would be a question that would be an independent answer, and it's a very good question. So early decision one. So for early decision one, this is a binding application. It's a binding program. So you're narrowing your choice and made the decision to attend one particular school. It can be a really obvious path for some students if they've visited the campus, done the research, and really have committed to this one school and said, hey, this is number one. It's binding. If accepted, it requires attendance, and you're required to withdraw applications to other schools if you have submitted and are still waiting to hear back. So keep that in mind, that once you hear and commit, that you do withdraw pending applications. If you're not accepted, a student is released from the agreement and may apply to another's ED2 and regular programs. And we're going to touch on early decision too also. So let's see, Fatima, anything to add here?
No, I mean, can I add a little bit as an answer to the previous question about whether you should wait So I think if it's advantageous to you to strengthen
Yes.
your profile, weight, like whether that's academically or with extracurriculars or anything else that you're doing. If you think like this is as, or maybe you're taking an additional SAT test, right? Whatever that is you're doing to strengthen your profile, then probably waiting for regular decision makes sense. But if your profile is already really strong and you're prepared and you already have the SAT score you want, your GPA is solid, then go ahead, like apply like ED or early, right? So think about for yourself whether waiting makes sense or doesn't, right? It's a really individual question.
The early applicants, they're students who have been doing the research, have been writing during the summer, who are prepared. And so they're eager and ready and feel as if it's the strongest step forward. So the question as to wait would be, do you have another strong statement that you're waiting for and the timing just isn't there for you? Okay, do you want to talk about this early decision agreement?
Sure. So unlike early action, this is binding, which means you are committing, right? You're telling the school, you're my top choice. If you guys say yes, I say yes, right? So really, really make this decision carefully. Visit the school if you can first, know the school, know the program that you're applying to. And if you have strong feelings about it and it's your top choice, absolutely go for, and you're ready to apply, go for it. But read the primary sources of information carefully. And you'll see this statement on the Common App. You'll see the statement on websites telling you of the binding nature. It's a document that you're signing.
Right. So this is part of the application. It's part of this is actually, I took from the Common application. And so when you're in the school portal and filling out let's say, Dream University, and they say, when will you be applying? And you choose, I'm choosing early decision program, then this will automatically appear and it requires a signature so that there are signatures required for applying early decision, for making that commitment.
We have a question, Maureen. So a student is asking us, does ED or EA reduce your chances of receiving merit scholarships? The justifications being you've already committed or you've demonstrated your commitment. So why would they try to attract you with a merit scholarship?
Right. So, or more likely to require test score submission. Test score submission is going to be a policy that the school uses, so not necessarily related to choosing an ED or EA program. I mean, in the case of, for example, schools that require school scores, it's just part of the process.
Like whether you apply ED or not, scores are required, is what Maureen is saying.
Right. So it's not really, isolated to EA or DED. And then as far as financial aid, no, I mean, you can also think they're not going to hold back because of an early student. It's actually the time when there's more money available. So, again, financial aid details vary from school to school, right?
And I kind of want to add something because I was researching quite a few different colleges earlier today and looking at their ED, EA policies. A lot of times actually applying EA makes you eligible for scholarships that you wouldn't be eligible for if you applied regular. So whatever schools you're interested in, right? Like let's say you've made a college list, go to each of those colleges and look at their EA, ED policy. And you'll see many times alongside, they'll mention that if you apply by November 1st or whatever the deadline is, you are automatically considered for certain
right. And I just showed that through USC, right? So
exactly.
That scholarships, again, attached to earlier applications.
Whereas if you applied regular, a lot of schools may not consider you for those scholarships, right? So really looking at each of the schools' websites that are on your list And
Again, that is back to what Fatima just explained, back to the schools and the questions individually for the schools. Yeah. So early decision 2 is gaining ground here. It's several years ago, there were a few schools, but there are quite a few now that offer early decision 2. So early decision 1 being in the fall, early decision 2 happens later in the year. This happens for that January 1st deadline. And so when you're considering ED2, you would be there in December, putting together regular decision applications and deciding again if you're ready to commit to one school as an early decision applicant. You hear back in mid-February, whereas regular decision, you're going to hear back March, April, so that you do hear back earlier from that commitment. Again, you need to withdraw their applications if you're applying regular and you were admitted to your ED school in February. Let's see, the ED2 option. So the ED2 option, there are a couple of reasons why a student may apply using ED2. So it can be a second chance at early decision, where plan A was early decision 1, early actions, but that early decision 1 was not successful. So the student can say, okay, let me look at my early actions, let me plan for my regular decisions and see if there's an opportunity there for an ED2. And if the school is compelling and the student wants to commit, then they can, again, they're released from the ED1 because they were not accepted and go on to commit to an ED2. So also, just like we were talking about a few minutes ago, if a student is not ready to commit in the fall and they just don't have a first choice at that point, they may find an opportunity in December and say, hey, listen, I think I have some early action outcomes that are positive, but I think I would like to ED to this next school. So that can be good. And here are just some schools that have both ED1 and ED2. And again, this is something you want to look at your college list as a student and see what the opportunities are and make notes, make that spreadsheet and see what your options are. And again, what think about that regular target and likely list and think about your dream schools. And that's part of the strategy that I'll get into in a few minutes. So you want to talk a little bit about regular?
Sure. So regular decision deadlines happen after ED1 and ED2 are over. And some schools don't have the ED program, right? In which case regular is all you get. But they're usually happening in the winter, so late December onwards to February. And the decisions obviously are arriving later as well. So I wanted to actually talk a little bit about schools that only have early decision and regular decision programs and do not have an early action program, right? So for example, if we took a hypothetical scenario where you were, considering Gettysburg, Hamilton, and Bates as like 3 options. So all 3 of these schools have ED1, ED2, and have regular. You could almost like have a strategy of like, what is your top choice? So if Bates is your top choice, you can try ED1, see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, you can totally apply ED2 to one of these other 2 colleges. So if Gettysburg is choice number 2, you can apply ED2, and then you can always apply regular to Hamilton, when after that ED2 application is in, and then get the Gettysburg results in earlier, right? But you can almost just kind of think of like, what is my top choice? What is my second top choice if my top choice doesn't work out? And then the rest kind of fall into the regular decision category, right? After that.
Yeah, the idea of plan A's and plan B's.
Always,
Yeah.
always. And rolling is a whole different animal where there's no set deadline. The colleges review applications as they come in, and once the slots are filled, the application closes. Very, very common example, or very popular example, it's the University of Pittsburgh, right? They encourage you to apply early because that's when they have a lot more slots. So, your chances are probably better. And as you apply, and they keep reviewing applications throughout the year. So for schools that have rolling deadlines, apply early, apply as soon as you can, get it off your list, and then focus on the other schools.
Okay, there is something called immediate decision. Now, only a few colleges and their regional colleges at this point offer this, but immediate decision days can occur on a Saturday, and a student comes in, hand carries their documents, transcripts, etc., and has arranged to meet someone with the admissions office. And the admissions office is meeting with students regularly during the day, this particular immediate decision day, and they're waitlisted, denied, or are admitted on the spot. So I have had students do this in the past in New York City, but I haven't seen it in a long time. I do know that Millersville U in Pennsylvania does offer immediate decision. It's a regional university, and so it serves the students in the community there and allows them to really get this, it's early decision. You hear early and you're done, but this is really immediate. Okay, and other types of applications and timing and deadlines. So the University of California system, the applications go in during the month of November with the deadline of November 30th. The University of Florida has a November 1st priority deadline, and then a second deadline of December 1st, where students get in their student self-reported academic record, where they put in their courses and grades. So if a student does submit their application, they have to remember to get that SSAR in by that deadline, because once the priority deadline passes, it becomes part of a space available program. So students with a keen interest in the University of Florida will want to meet the priority deadline, get in that SSAR report. So again, reminders and spreadsheets are part of this game. Also, I just want to mention that the National Association for College Admissions Counseling does have a list of schools still accepting application, and this list comes out late in the spring after the May 1st deadline. So as far as strategy, these questions are questions a student might ask when they're sitting down to look at their balanced list of schools, right? So again, which schools offer early action? Let me see what schools I can get in early. I have a strong application. Let me see what I can get in early, and I won't have to commit, right? Let me think about that one early decision choice. Do I have a number one? So remember, have I done my research, visited campus? Can I make that commitment as an informed applicant, right? And then weigh, okay, early action, early decision. And then if schools don't have early action and they're not your number one choice, then if the choice is regular decision, then you're beginning to sort and to plan your deadlines, to plan the writing of supplemental essays, and how to move forward with your strategy and timing. So again, the plan A could be early decision one with early action or that restricted early action, minding the restrictions that the school holds, and then having a plan B, saying, listen, if these are the schools that I won't be applying to early decision one, don't have early action, they're my regular decision pool. who has early decision two? So working through the options and seeing what works best for your goals. Okay, so the question, is there an ED boost? What's the advantage of applying early decision? So schools may offer an opportunity for a boost because it allows them to plan and predict enrollment for the next year. It's 100% yield rate. If you apply saying I will attend and they admit you, it is beneficial to the school and their rankings, but in their planning. So also in admitting, again, this committed student, early decision one and early decision two, and offering more students a spot through these early decision programs drives down the admissions rate. So they become more selective. So one way to look at this, if you want to look at the numbers on early decision, if schools release them, you can look at the common data set. So you can Google common data set Dream University. And as you scroll down, there'll be a lot of interesting information about just admission stats. And there will be a place, it's usually around page 12, that talks about early decision numbers, how many students were applied, how many were admitted. And so the common data set's a good way to continue some research based on stats. So common dates. What we have, regular decision results come out in March and April. Again, you're submitting in January 1st, but watch for maybe a December 31st application date. Ivy Day, there's going to be a day when the Ivy League releases at the end of March. May 1st, National Decision Day, when students who are not in an early decision program commit and make deposits to schools. Again, ED1 commits mid-December and ED2 commits mid-February. And so that is this sort of the scope on the timeline and deadlines and sort of how to approach with a bird's eye view, but also know to have your real focus in the weeds and the details and in order to do what's best for you.
Thank you so much, Maureen. As you can see, she is a human encyclopedia. So if you're ever struggling with sort of planning this process out, Maureen is definitely the person to talk to. And Maureen, I'm wondering, and if you have any questions about the essay process, obviously, please, you can always reach out to us as well.
Yes, please reach out to Fatima. We have our emails here and for contact and the main Prep Matters phone number. But if students are working now on putting together their main essay, their supplemental essays, really reach out to Fatima, who can help put that plan together.
Yeah, and Maureen, I wonder, do we have time to do a few questions? If you can.
Yes, yeah.
One question that I've seen arising is, do you know if you can pay for college before making a decision for ED, or if the ED financial award is not enough, can you withdraw? So can you talk a little bit about that?
So I would consult each school on the financial aid, because we can really, we're talking about sort of deadline overviews tonight, but I think the financial aid questions that's a whole nother sort of process to walk down, right? And there's so many various details. Again, it's really specific, and so it depends on the schools, how the school approaches awarding aid. So
what you can do is, if the website isn't giving you the explicit, specific information that you're looking for, email them, email the admissions office and ask the question, like if I get
Well,
an
the first start is to look at the financial aid, to read the financial aid information on the website, right? So that's, I mean, like I said, tonight we're talking about early deadlines and sort of the deadline operation in general. So I'm gonna just sort of say, you know, there are important financial considerations for ED, so that should be part of your research when you're looking at these options. So do I think test scores will still be a big part of the application, even for schools where it's optional? So schools say optional means optional, right? But again, on the common data set, it tells you how many students submitted scores the previous year. And so you can get a percentage last year, just in general, not for every school, but in general, I would say, you know, close to 60% of students submitted scores. Again, you're going to want to submit scores that are strong. And so when you have the option, it is, again, a strategic decision and would be made for each school, depending on how your scores relate to that applicant pool. Okay, does declaring undecided as intended major hinder the student's prospects for getting accepted at a given school? So in general, no, because many schools don't expect, you know, students in high school to be able to commit to a major. I think in some narratives, it's interesting for students to talk about their intellectual interests and strengths. So in some cases, schools do ask on the application to identify first area of interest, second area of interest, third area of interest. So I think that students should be accurate about their choices and think carefully about them, so that, you know, because on the supplemental questions, if they're there, then it's of interest to the school. So I think there are a lot of financial aid questions. So again, I think they may be often the same person. So I would say, you know, to work through the schools on that, because if you are committing, you want to make sure that the school, if you are applying for need-based aid, that you're in tandem, because you will have to submit the paperwork for your financial aid application when you submit your application. So already you're sort of working in tandem with the university, right? So they happen together, and there'll be a due date for the financial aid applications, you know, and so you'll want to watch out on that. And then there's a question about that LSAT. So I think it may be, yeah, I'm not sure what. So we were talking about undergraduate admissions. And so I'm not sure the LSAT question. Can send me an email on that specific question, because it's a little bit different operation at that point. So.
And there's one more question, Maureen, which is asking, for an EA or early action application, is it possible to take the SAT in October, or is that too late?
Again, it's going to depend. Read the websites, because in some cases it'll be okay, and others it will not. They'll say, we want all materials by November 1st. And someone asked about super scores. Again, some schools want all scores. right? So a student can report a super score on the application because they're going to put their 2 strongest scores. However, if a school requires an official SAT report, then, and it requires all scores, then again, they want to look at all the scores. Some schools just want to look at all scores if you're submitting them. And again, that's laid out on the website. So it's, do they want all scores? Will they super score? Again, school by school. But what I can say, the self-reporting can be, putting in that strongest representation.
Great. Shall we wrap up tonight?
Sounds great. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, reach out if you have any questions. And good luck with applications and deadlines and essays.
Hang in there, guys, and best of luck to you.